It's Wednesday in February. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
It's Wednesday in February. Hello, ladies.
I'm going to turn the sound off on my other system.
That might be a good idea.
I didn't know it was on. Oops.
Welcome to the real world, everybody.
Maybe that's the whistling you were hearing. Woohoo!
Oh, that's phenomenal. That's amazing.
I have thread on my table and my cats have sniffed it out. I have two cats trying to get on the table. One's trying to eat the thread. This will be interesting. Go away.
All right, we got some comments coming in, ladies. Oh, cool. We got Joan. Hello, Joan. And Pauline and Joni and Jessica and Jessie. Yay, thread, they say. That's so cool.
Jessie.
Okay, I just minimized my screen a little bit to see if I could see the Oh, there they are on the side there on the comments.
Yeah. Oh, look at Jessica from Oklahoma. That'd be, and Manitoba, pretty awesome.
Yay, Canadian.
Yay. All right.
Oh, yeah, people are really coming in now.
Yes.
Cool.
Awesome. There's everybody.
Enjoying
Hey,
a glass of wine as she's watching.
Who's drinking?
I don't know. Are we allowed to have wine? Nobody's.
No kidding. I think we should.
Yeah.
We'll let Yvonne drink wine. I'll stick to my carbonated water.
Oh, if you can see EPQS.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this is gonna be great. All right.
Sherry's there.
Yeah.
Sherry.
Okay, good.
All right. Thread. Or should we wait for a few more people to come on in?
We can wait a minute.
It's up to you. Yeah. We can wait.
We're
we can wait a minute and say hi to everybody.
Oh, Susie from Dallas. That's awesome. And Cathy from Illinois. So it's going to snow tomorrow. So apparently in the 2020s of the world, 2023, Nebraskans are very much, they're wimps and we're closing school already. So
before the weather comes?
Yeah, the weather comes, the snow coming. No, Jessica, we're not all from Canada. Tracey is from Canada.
It's 10 degrees here right now.
It's super cold here too. The wind is blowing and it just blows right through you. Angela's in North Carolina, not probably going to complain about the weather.
No, we're not. We have beautiful weather. Everyone needs to come visit us. It's not going to snow here tomorrow. Not a chance.
All right. So should we introduce ourselves maybe a little bit and start with Angela first and just to reintroduce with everybody coming in?
Sure. I'm Angela Clark, and I am in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am obviously an APQS rep. I guess not obviously, I am an APQS rep. And I do free motion quilting a little bit, not as much as I used to, and mostly computer. So when you see me posting, you're usually going to see me posting about QuiltPath because right now that's, my happy place in the world. So yeah.
Some of these great comments. Are you guys reading some of them? Some of the people are in Texas and 90-degree weather and all over. This is so awesome. You guys keep the comments up. It's great. Sorry, Tracey. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm going to go visit Jasmine. I'm sure there's a Harley dealership there I can rent a bike from. It's 75 degrees there.
Oh, we got somebody from Australia. That is so cool.
So cool. Yeah.
Summer in Australia.
Yeah,
right? Or coming into their fall, I guess, because we're coming into their spring.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'm Tracey, and I am the owner of Worlds and Swirls Quilting, which is in Whitby, Ontario. So I'm just outside of Toronto in Canada, obviously. And I have an APQS showroom. I also, I'm the free motion person. I do use QuiltPath and I love QuiltPath, but free motion, freehand quilting, custom quilting specifically is my thing. So that's where my happy place lies when I'm at my machines, is at the front doing my own thing.
Wow. So did you see the We Quilt Studio? She says her daughter rides a Harley.
Oh, I ride a Harley too. I love it.
All right. So I'm Cathy from Fabric Bash. I'm the owner. I'm a co-owner. Jacob is a part of this usually, but today he is cutting some acrylic rulers for a customer that needs them by Friday. So he's busy working hard. But we own Fabric Bash, so he gets to work with his mother-in-law every day. That's our little spiel. We have a 8,000 square foot store, lots of bolts of fabric. We have a APQS showroom, long arms for rent, which is kind of cool. So if you can't buy one, we have them for rent, and Angela has them for rent. Speaking of Angela.
So does Tracey.
Oh yeah, Tracy too. That's right. I forget.
Yeah, I rent mine too.
I'm so sorry.
And I
So
quilt
we
for
all-
others.
Yeah.
It's a one-stop shop.
Didn't mean to do that. I was teaching today. My brain is half empty as usual. One of my friends though, that used to live in Omaha, Angela,
Mhm.
is going to come rent from you.
Oh, how cool is that?
Her name is Liz Price.
Okay.
So I said for her to give you a hug.
Okay. I will
So-
accept a hug.
That's awesome. Sorry, Tracy, didn't mean to do that. It's just been my brain is kind of because you're so amazing at your free motion. And I love all of your videos on YouTube. Everybody needs to follow her YouTube because it's awesome.
Thank you.
I have been long arming for a while, was in my basement, and then got here in the store. I love every part of it. I love the quilt path. I love free motion. I love projects on there. I just want to be in the long arm room. It's where I want to be. So that's my story, sticking to it.
Good stuff.
So, Julianne, we're still trying to figure out how we can close caption on a live stream. So we are still working on that. It will be closed caption when it goes live on all of our YouTube channels.
Yes.
She asked if no closed captioning today. We're still working on that.
Right. That's a issue we've got to work out with StreamYard. The problem is, I think, is the software to do it right away with StreamYard right now.
So it's it's an after thing. Is that what you're saying?
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Once it's recorded, then it does whatever it does, and then it's closed captioned.
Yeah. So like your
Yeah.
videos on your YouTube site are automatically closed captioned.
Right. But you can't be closed captioned while you're live.
There are some streaming services that can do that. We're still trying to figure out how to do it with this streaming service.
Oh, okay, good.
So yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's something that we want to do though.
So Susie asks, is there going to be time to answer questions
Yes.
all throughout?
Yes, just go ahead and ask. I don't know about, can you two see the question? Can you two see the chat? I can see the chat. So we'll
Yeah.
just kind of watch it, Susie, and try to answer. It may end up a complete cluster mess, but we'll do our best. So go ahead and ask away. We're going to talk about threads though.
But also let me know which questions you want up, ladies, if you see one, and I can put it up for you. Okay.
Oh, right in the window, all fancy like?
Yeah.
Bottom? Okay.
Cool. Okay.
All right.
I would like you to, before we went live, all three of us said it was a good day in our showroom today because we didn't rip any quilts. That's realness for you. They're killing.
I didn't wreck
this
any
thing.
fabric today.
There was no, yeah. They said, well, actually, I admitted to ripping a quilt, and they said it was. I'm going to play with them though. It was that day, so yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
It's real. It's real. Yeah.
It happens. The seam ripper is our best friend.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Unstitching is a skill, is what we say around here. Look at what I have right here. I'm just saying. Handy dandy in my pocket.
Have you ever tried the I've always skinned quilts,
Mhm.
you generally with a rotary cutter. And this is totally off topic. Sorry.
It's okay.
That's what happens when
We're
it's live and
unthreading.
you're talking.
We're unthreading.
We're unthreading. Yeah. So I've never been good with an actual seam ripper. I don't like them. You know, like your regular clover seam ripper. It never ends well when I try to use those. So years and years ago, probably 15 years ago, I take my stitches out with rotary cutter. So I skin it. I should do a video on that and show people how to do that.
You should.
It's really fast. And once you get over the fear that you've got an open blade at your top, it's actually much faster. And for me, it's safer. I make much less mistakes that way. But you can also use, I've got a set of them. I got them at Shoppers Drug Mart in the makeup department. and it's a razor blade, but it's got teeth on it. And I guess people use it. I guess people use it for like shaving their
So, like-
hands and their faces, like the peach fuzz and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I got some, the brand, it doesn't matter what brand you buy, but the brand I got was, it's Quo, Quo, and there was 3, I think, or 4 in a package. And that's what I use now. And it's awesome because it's got the little teeth on it. So it's, you know, I feel safe giving it to a rental customer to try, because I know that they can't just like, you know, rip their or cut their fabric. But that's really fast. It's a fast way of getting this stuff out. And it's not a tool. It's not a quilting tool. It's a beauty tool, but works really well.
Okay.
So
Anyway,
it's like
sorry.
a microderm razor or something like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry for running off the path.
No.
I'm back.
Squirrel.
Okay. I do have one question that we need to probably answer in a little bit. So it says, I have problems with my top thread shredding on my long arm. What do you think is wrong? So do you want to answer that now or later? Because I think both and.
I mean, we could talk about it a little bit. The first thing would be, if you have had your long arm for a while, have you checked your guides? Like your thread guides, pigtails, 3-hole guides, right? Make sure that there are no burrs anywhere. Sometimes your needle will even have, the little hole in your needle will even have a burr. So swap your needle out and see if that helps. But most of the time when I have shredding on the top of my machine, I'm going to find a burr on a guide somewhere. I'm about to have a couple German Shepherds come in and visit me, and I'm sorry, they're like ricocheting off the door.
And if I can interject, Susie, if your shredding is directional, so say you're working and you're doing a pantograph or whatever, and every time you go, say you're working at the back and you're going away from you and to the left, I'm going to get you to be checking your needle hole in your needle plate on the back right, so opposite. So when you're stitching with a long arm, every direction you're pushing or pulling that machine, your needle is flexing in the opposite direction.
Right.
So your needle could have hit inside the hole of the needle plate, just giving it a strike. You could have a fully legit burr. And then as you're coming around in that certain direction and the needle starts to flex a little bit, the thread gets a little closer to the burr in the needle hole. So if it's directional, check your needle hole as well in your needle plate.
It can also be the hook retaining finger if it's directional. The tip of the hook retaining finger, which you can't see. She said it's not directional though.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
No,
You're fine. You're fine. I was going to try to get
good information, right? Another thing, we had an issue today where Melissa that works with me was stitching, and we could see it looked like lint coming on the thread, and she pushed her finger down the thread where it was coming off of the cone, and we had probably 3 yards of just thread that had a problem. I mean, we spooled it off the cone until it stopped doing that. So sometimes if it's shredding, it can actually be one of the plies is broken, and it may be throughout that cone of thread, right? So that's
just pop in a different cone and try it and see if you're still having the issue. Like rule out the cone of thread.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And one of the things that we do here at the store when trying to find a burr, I was teasing. So we have self-deprecating humor around our store. So when we first opened up the store and we're talking about finding burrs, I said, Jacob, why don't you go get some pantyhose and go buy them and bring them back to the store, and we'll cut them up and we'll have little things that we could feel the burrs as you go through, because the nylon seems to catch it a little bit easier. So I made fun of them. So I'm like, if there's still a thing, my girls are what pantyhose?
What are pantyhose? I was like, do they still sell those? Probably.
I know, right? So old things like that helps us a little bit, because and especially with my daughter who has more of a tactile person, like she can put it through and actually see that that as she pulls it through, it catches on a burr kind of thing.
Susie, are you using cotton thread? Are you using poly thread? I mean, yes, trying a different brand of thread or a different type of thread may also help, right? You determine if you're having a problem with just that brand of thread. because
And you could also have, sorry, Angela, I didn't mean to
It's-
cut you off there. You
No, it's
could
okay.
also have the wrong size needle in there as well.
very much so.
Because if
Yeah.
the needle is too small for the
Mhm.
thread, then it's going to cause too much friction with the thread going like through the eye of the needle. And if the needle is too large, it can also actually cause the problem because the eye of the needle is too big.
Yeah, it can swap around inside of
Yeah.
there.
So, but we can help you out. Send me a private message later and I'll help you troubleshoot it.
All right.
So Susie obviously knows Tracey. So Tracey.
No, I don't actually, but I just feel invested in her now.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So you can send
There we
any of
go.
us a private message and we'll be happy to
Anybody,
help you. Susie.
yeah.
How's that for a deal?
Anybody. There you go.
We all
There you
feel
go.
invested once we start trying to help you. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and ironically, you're going to see a whole bunch of glide in just a minute but all three of us use glide on our long arms.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Who wants to start?
I got to start the first time, so let's let Tracey go first this time.
Perfect.
Okay, so we were gonna talk about our favorite colors,
Mhm.
right? So I brought a couple of different threads home, as well as different colors. When it comes to glide, I love glide thread, but it's not the only thread on the planet. I love all kinds of thread. When it comes to glide thread, though, when it for neutrals and things that are going to go with all kinds of stuff, if you're new and you're looking for something that's going to blend and you don't want to invest in a ton of colors, the prickly pear is probably one of my favorites. I refer to it at the shop as baby poop because it looks like baby poop. Sorry.
That's fine.
It's okay.
Hi, I'm live on YouTube. My daughter just came on. So this one's called prickly pear, and like I said, I call it baby poop. It's green, it's gold, it's yellow. It's a chameleon color, so it blends. It's a nice medium value, and it's so much more blendy than you would think looking at the cone. It changes color as it goes across other colors. So I love prickly pear.
It's one of my favorites.
My other favorite is pumpkin seed. I use pumpkin seed far more than anybody should use pumpkin seed. But it's a beautiful color orange. And it doesn't sound like it, but orange is actually a fairly neutral color.
Mhm.
So I will use it anytime I want something soft that's going to blend with a bunch of colors. Quite often going into a yellow, as the yellow goes across a darker fabric, it will pale out and start to look white.
Mhm.
Pumpkin seed holds its own. So as it goes across, it's not too much that it's going to be too dark or too bright or, too harsh on even white. It's beautiful on white. But it's also not orange. It's not like safety orange, if that makes sense. It's a soft color. It's just beautiful. Very versatile.
Hey, Tracey, can I stop just for 2 seconds real quick?
Sure.
Very quick question before, I just want to get some of these questions before they roll up on us a little bit.
Sure.
When using permacore or superior poly thread, is there a shelf life?
They're both polys.
Yeah.
I have thread that I've had for 15 years and it's fine.
Yeah. If it's
Yeah.
not breaking, it should be fine.
And once it goes
Yeah.
into a quilt, I mean, we expect our quilts to last 100 years, right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
whether it's on a cone or in a quilt, it shouldn't go bad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cotton
Okay.
threads will dry out and you might have to rehydrate them, but poly threads,
Yeah.
you shouldn't even have to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Everything I brought home today is all poly. I didn't bring any cotton thread home with me. But I do have King Tut and Signature at the shop.
All right. Thank you for letting me interrupt the question.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. I'll just ramble on forever. Nobody will get a word in edgewise if you don't shut me up. So
Yeah. Susie also asked what size needle would we need for glide. She's using glide.
you can use a 4.0 needle. Glide. This glide is a 40 weight polyester.
Mhm.
You can run it with a 4, but this thread really likes a 3.5 needle as well. So if you're quilting, say, a batik quilt that's batik top and bottom, you can certainly use a 3.5 needle because it's a little bit smaller, and the glide will run beautifully in it.
What size do you use, Cathy? With glide?
Mostly the 40 weight, but I mostly use size 4 needles in the store.
And see, I usually use the 3.5 with glide. So,
I mean, we don't have any problems with the rentals. If I have like some thread breaks, I mean, not thread breaks, some needle breaks because of thickness of a quilt, we'll move to a 3.5 because you're pushing less through that material. So when you get done with your thread colors, we have another question about variegated. So keep going with your colors, and then we'll talk about variegated. How does that sound?
No, ask the variegated question. I brought some home.
woohoo! You go, girlfriend.
Opinions, feelings on variegated for long arming.
Oh, I see it. Casey, use it. Use it. Use it. I love variegated thread. I don't care if it's shiny or if it's matte. Quick note about shiny versus matte. These are pretty much the same colors in both of these. This is Omni V variegated, so it's a polyester, but has a matte finish, and this is Fantastico. It's got a nice shine to it. If you want one of these to blend more, show less, you're going to use the matte one, because a matte finish absorbs color and a shiny finish reflects color. So anytime you use a shiny thread versus a matte thread, you're going to see the shiny thread more just because it has a shine, if that makes sense. Absolutely. One tip when you're using variegated thread, instead of looking at the cone like this, always look at the cone from the top. Okay. If you could have a couple of these things on a shelf and be looking at them, staring at them like this, and they can look like completely different colors of thread because of the way it's wound. You'll see more yellow or you'll see more green or whatever. But if you look from the top, you'll see all the colors there, how they all play together. And that's a much better way to choose. Okay.
I also try not to match one of the colors to what I'm doing. So I don't lose my thread. Like slightly off is a good thing with variegated thread. So you see all the variegations.
Right.
Yeah.
Complementary. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on the colors for sure, because it will disappear. And when you're if you're doing a pantograph, you have no control over where that thread's going either, right? So you don't want to lose it in spots and then have it really obnoxious in other spots.
Right.
And then the only other one I'll talk about, just because anybody who follows my videos, this is Kryptonite. Very bright green, my favorite color ever.
Yay.
Ever. I love this color. It's doesn't play friendly with a lot of things. It's not a thread you're going to throw on all kinds of quilts because it works well or it matches. It is the star of the show, and I just personally love this. I just love lime green. It's just my favorite color.
Me three.
Yeah.
That's why we're all friends, because we all like lime green thread.
And we all like lime green.
Not kryptonite, but some lime greens can be neutrals. Kryptonite cannot. I agree, and I do love kryptonite too.
Yeah, kryptonite's it's a look at me color.
I have a lady who's rescuing quilt tops. So she has these very beautiful old quilt tops that she marries with very pieced modern back quilts, and we put very bright colors like lime green on top, and it looks fabulous.
Oh, cool. Yeah, color's good.
All right. Joan said she used our lime green on the twins quilt that she just quilted in the store.
Cool. Okay,
right.
Cathy, you get to be next.
Okay. Well, I got lots of thread behind me. This is my rental threads here. One of the ones that we use a lot, and I will just say, I think on customer quilts, because it is kind of interesting. I think when customers come in to rent, some people really like color or some people want to really match. And Maggie is, my daughter helps a lot in the long arm room, and she's fabulous at picking colors. And she sees things that I don't even see sometimes. She's awesome. But one of our favorite, as you can tell, is light gray, because it turns like a little blue on some blues, and it just is a nice color that matches well. So we go through this one quite a bit when we order our thread. This one gets ordered in multiples of dozens when we get this one. Another one of my neutrals that is kind of fun is bone, because it's not white. and it's not, I don't know, just it.
I thought I had that one too, but I don't.
It has like a pinky, it has a soft pinky purpley kind of tint to it, the bone.
It
I like
does.
that one.
Right.
Yeah.
It just is, it's just soft and beautiful. Another one of our kind of neutrals that I think is interesting that people freak out. I think it is neutrals. It's not freak out, excuse me. That's not the right word. They're just surprised. Lemon ice. When you're talking about like you have this big, beautiful white quilt with some of the piecing being a little bit yellow, but not a lot yellow, but just a little bit yellow, that if we use this on the white, it doesn't scream, hello, this is the thread color, but yet it hides nicely in the colors as well. So it's another one of those great neutrals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. That was 3, right? How many do I get to pick from? Because I got a wall, but no, I'm just kidding.
Show off.
Show off. I will say Zafri is a real fun color. Blue, jeans blue kind of.
How do you pronounce that?
I say Zafri. I don't know if I want to be the person who's named these. How do you name that Zafri?
I've always said that in my head. I always think of it as Zafir, which makes no sense because that's not how it's spelled, but I have no clue how to pronounce that thread. How do you pronounce it, Ange?
I'm not. Sorry. I'm not even going to try that thread. Yeah.
Just that dusty blue one. Just that bluey
that
gray
Z
one
thread.
over there.
Go get the
That
Z
one's-
thread.
Yeah,
yeah.
the Z thread. Yeah.
The Z thread. Then the
All
other
right.
one that I find rather interesting, because being from a military town a little bit, is Army green. Because
Yeah,
Army,
that's a nice one.
this
yeah,
is a nice one, right? And I love the fact that one time this person had much more of a very modern, anti-establishment kind of quilt, and we used Army green on it. It just made me giggle. You know, things like that make me giggle because, again, how do you know that's Army? I would like to be the person who names this thread. That's all. But
It's a little dark for Army.
Right?
If you've ever lived on a military base, that's dark for Army. That's like,
Yeah, but don't they have like 300 colors? Like eventually you're going to start running out of names,
Right?
true.
right?
True. But the one that's just soft and beautiful is Willow. I love Willow.
Willow's a nice one too. Yeah.
I do like Willow too. That almost came home for me.
Okay.
Can I interject quick? I forgot to talk about shadow.
Yeah.
Go for shadow. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Shadow is very, very dark, but it's not quite black. So
Yeah.
instead of quilting black on black,
Mhm.
shadow's dark enough that it doesn't jump off of black, but it's light enough that you can first of all see it while you're quilting, because my eyes are 56 years old. And you can just see it. So it's nice. It doesn't completely disappear, but it's not black.
And that means that you can see it when you're quilting and you're not going to quilt over yourself as much, right? When you're,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
shadow on black. I typically don't use black threads. These are all glide colors so far, for the most part, that we've talked about, except for the variegated threads. Those
Yes.
were superior.
Well, and I did bring home Primo Soft and Glide 60 and Micro Quilter, but that gets more into a conversation about weights of threads, and then we're going to need to talk about needles. So maybe we'll just talk about different weights of threads another day.
Yeah.
I don't know. You go ahead and
sure.
show us your threads. Are you finished, Cathy? Sorry.
Just
I just
got one
wanted
more.
to say I also have Wonderfill, a gray again. So I love this little bit darker gray, but Wonderfill we have is here. Wonderful. It is Master Quilter. So kind of like the same as Glide, but not as shiny per se.
What weight is it?
40.
I've not used that.
40 weight.
40
Is
weight.
it 40?
Mm-hmm.
I like
Only Wonderfill
Invisafill.
thread that I use is Invisafill and Deco Bob.
Yeah, I love Invisafill, which is 100 weight, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Deco Bob's 80 weight.
Right, for sure.
Okay. So what I did today was I looked to see what I didn't have a lot of, because obviously those are the threads that I'm using. And surprisingly, the ones I put on my list, which are some of the ones you've already heard of today, I don't have cones of at all. So we've used them all and haven't replaced them yet. So lately we've been using a whole lot of Battleship.
Yes.
It's like a
That's a good color.
medium tone gray,
Mhm.
like a lot of Battleship. There was like 3 of them this size.
Mhm.
We're not real good about using the entire cone either. All of us have multiple long arms going, so we probably have wrenchers that are using multiple colors.
Right.
And then when I went into the taupey goldy colors, pearl, You guys
Yeah,
use a
pearl.
lot of pearl.
Mhm. That goes up my store quite a bit too.
It blends really well, and it's got a really pretty iridescent color to it. Obviously, I had light gray, which Cathy already had. Sand, which comes off as gold. Like
Mhm.
you can use it instead of
Military gold.
well, instead of metallic thread.
Oh, yeah.
And military gold to me comes off a little more brassy,
Mhm.
right? This is a little brighter gold, because all of us need a green. This one is limerick.
Oh, that's my, yeah, I love limerick.
See, I'm like,
That's a
I
good
like
color.
willow, and I like
Mhm.
prickly pear and kryptonite. I'm a green person. I like all greens.
Right.
And then I have amethyst, which was the only thread that was actually on my list. We were allowed to give 5 threads that we liked or for something we were doing. I gave 6. I don't follow directions well. I also brought in more than 5 threads tonight.
Well, it's an impossible task.
I like all thread.
5 thread colors.
And then
And they've all changed whenever we've talked about it. Yeah.
yeah. And mine aren't coming off in true colors, obviously, because I have blue and purple lights in here right now. But this is pink lemonade. So it's a really soft pink when you look at it. And then tropical, which is kind of a denim-y blue. We use this one a lot, right? So those are glide. And then the other thread that I use a lot of is Primasoft, which is also a Filtech or Haberdash Filtech, right? Thread. And it's still polyester, but it's cottonized, so it doesn't shine. What Tracey was saying earlier, if you look at these 2 threads together, I'm not sure if you can see them both at the same time because they're in front of me, but obviously you can see the shine on the one on the bottom, and the top one isn't shining at all, right? So,
Right.
yes, you had one too, didn't you? Yeah,
I did, and I brought home a blue one.
That's funny.
Is yours light turquoise?
No, this is a really soft blue. I really like the Primasoft.
I do like it a lot. There are times that I like things to not be shiny. So best thread for jelly roll. Right. I would go with a polyester that's not shiny. So Primasoft would be great for that. Things like
I saw that for a jelly roll rug.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be on the floor. You're going to want something super, super strong, right? So that's why I'm saying go with poly. And I wouldn't go with, shiny poly on my floor. I would go with, one that's going to blend a little bit better than that.
Right. And I will just also say that I feel that the Primasoft fills up your bobbin just because of the fuzzies of the cottonized part of it. It fills up your bobbin faster. So just something to be aware of. Not a big deal, but it's a good thing.
You mean your hook, not your bobbin, right? That the fuzzy fills up your hook or your bobbin?
I think it fills up. I don't get as much yardage on my bobbin as I would. I
she
feel
winds hers.
Well, that's because it's a 50 weight, right? So it's heavier. It's not the 60 weight.
It is.
This would, Vicky, another thread that would be good for the jelly roll rugs is Omni.
Definitely Omni. Yeah.
It's a 40 weight polyester. I did not bring one home with me. That stuff is nice and strong, no shine.
Yeah.
I like Omni thread a lot, and it comes in 6,000 yard cones as well.
Yeah,
so
use a big needle. Like use that 4.0 for Omni for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
And then what size needle would you use when using quilting batiks? We said 3.5.
3.5. I go smaller when I'm doing batiks because I don't want the holes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's so many there's so many threads things here. So yes, Susie, they do recommend pre-wound bobbins. That's why she was laughing at me, because we wind our bobbins in our store.
Yeah, I wind very few bobbins. I only wind bobbins for cotton if I'm doing pure cotton. Other than that, it cost me more to have someone stand there and wind a bobbin for me than it would for me to just buy the pre-wound bobbin.
Right.
So yeah, if I'm using 100% cotton, I do use Deco Bobs are awesome. Yes. I love Deco Bobs in my long arm. They work great.
And those are 80 weight.
Yeah, those are 80 weight. Lots of thread on them too. So yeah.
So we have a question that we could this one says, yes, please talk about the weight of threads and then needle matching, including domestic machine needle sizes. And I think That's kind of a long kind of question. We could maybe glance over it a little tiny bit, and maybe we could a tiny bit.
Tiny bit.
Yeah, and we can definitely talk about that in over on the Quilting Academy too. We could have a thing over there for sure, because it is important to use the right size needle. So we can
And
go.
it might be good to make a chart so that it, so it makes more sense what we're trying to say too.
Right.
That's a good idea.
Why don't we, Tam, why don't we look at watching for a chart so we can have, a little bit more concrete and just fire hosing information out there and think it in the right way. We want to make sure we get the right thing. So why don't you watch for that? And also we'll probably put it on some other some of our sites as well. And then that thread shadow, that was Glide Thread by Habendash or Filtech. Then Casey,
I have that, Joanne. I have that in the shop.
Oh, cool.
I have this one.
Casey,
it's new.
It is a new thread color. It's a new thread color.
What is the most common weight for long arm thread? 40 weight?
I would imagine it depends on what you're doing on your long arm at that moment. I would think for edge to edge quilting, it would probably be 40. I didn't use 40 weight thread until I became a computer quilter. When I was doing custom quilting, I was using all thinner threads than that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, probably the thickest I got was 50 weight. So it's going to really depend on what you're doing, Casey, to be honest with you.
I would say, if you're a custom quilter that quilts to death kind of thing, if you've heard that before, I would use a thinner thread. So you don't make the thicker the thread, the more quilting you put on it, the heavier and less bendable it's going to be. So, right?
Yeah. And it depends if it's a bed quilt or a wall hanging, or if it's being given to a 4-year-old who's going to drag the dog around on it and make a fort out of it and all that kind of stuff.
Then you want to quilt it with metal, but that's a different story.
All right. That sounds like a fun one.
Casey asked, what platform is the Quilting Academy located on? It's on Mighty Networks. And I'm sure we can put the link in the bottom of each one of our, wherever you're watching this on, because I know this is live on Angela's channel and Cathy's channel and my channel all at the same time. So in the show notes below, we'll make sure that we all get the link to the Mighty Networks platform, and you can come over and join. It's totally free, Casey, so there's no cost to belong to our wonderful growing community over there. So you can just join in and join the fun.
So here's a 60 weight. I like 60 weight, Casey, when I'm doing quilting to death or stitching in the ditch, or even 80 weight, or even the Invisifil, which is 100 weight, because it hides. It's awesome. Let's see. Vicky just asked, what are the other threads? You just said Prima Soft would be another good thread besides Omni. So Prima Soft from Habendash. And then Julianne asked, can you repeat what you said about the cost? What cost you more?
She's talking about bobbins. So by the time I pay someone to stand and wind my bobbins for a quilt, it's actually cheaper for me to buy pre-wound bobbins, because I have to, if I'm not there quilting, if I have an employee quilting, I have to pay that employee to be there to wind that bobbin. Mm-hmm. And there's other things that I could do that are better use of that money for my company. So, but I actually did the math one day, and it is literally cheaper for me to use pre-wound bobbins. Mm-hmm. Plus, they like it. They're happy. If it keeps them happy, we're going to keep doing it. I mean, whatever makes my employees happy is what we're going to do.
Right. Maggie doesn't mind. Maggie's pretty good about winding. We got a good rhythm going here about either putting some out there right away to catch up in case we only have one thread spool or whatever, or winding one. We have a winder for each machine, winding one while one's on the machine, kind of thing, to keep everybody happy.
Yeah. And we just use pre-bonds and it works.
Whatever works. I'm too lazy.
Whatever works. Too lazy to wind.
And I'm the only one there. So
yeah.
I don't have time to wind bobbins for people. So the pre-wounds are, they cost more than winding them yourself, but they're just easier.
Plus you get more thread on them. And if you're using a smaller bobbin, that's important. Somebody asked what thread we use on batiks. Tina Wood asked that.
Oh, yep.
Skip
You want
one.
me to put that back?
I tend to do smaller needle, thinner thread, but I mean, whatever thread looks right on that particular quilt is what I'm going to use. Like I've used specialty threads on batik quilts, so it just depends on what's going to look right on that quilt. Batiks are just fabric, right?
Yeah, they're just a little bit stiffer. They make a fun noise when the needles go through them. It's great.
They don't talk bad about my batiks.
They're just different. It's not bad. Not bad. I'm just saying. You make me laugh. Okay. So we have a great question about thread, about struggling with backtracking on formal feathers. Do you suggest 40 weight or 50 weight for the beginner with this type of feather?
I would suggest 60 or 80 weight. I would go much, much thinner. Look at Tracey going, yes, we would. Yeah.
So much more forgiving when you're new.
Yeah,
so much more forgiving.
And when you're old.
Yeah. Well, the thinner that thread is, you can miss your backtracks and not realize you've missed them. So it's going to hide more. Go thinner. I mean, try
it with solid colors. Sorry to cut you off, Angela. I didn't mean to do that.
Solid thin colors. Yeah.
Solid rather than variegated, because with variegated, when you're backtracking on over yourself, the colors are changing as well, and it can get messy looking.
Yeah, that's right. She's right. Solid colors, and go thin. Like if you have somewhere you can get Invisifil from, or micro quilters, and Invisifil is Wonderfil.
And I'm going to be getting that in my store. Do you guys have it in your stores?
I have all the colors of Invisifil in my store.
Right. Okay.
And then another one is Micro Quilter, which I think Tracey has in her stores, another 100 weight thread that is awesome. That one's by Superior.
Yeah.
And then Glide has a 60 weight, right? If your local place, we all sell 60 weight Glide.
I brought a bag home.
She's going to be restocking her whole store because go thinner and you'll have a lot more luck.
Okay, so Angela, could you maybe post a link to the Mighty Network while I'm running this? Because I'm afraid, since this is my first time running this, if I did, I'm gonna bomb this out. Or we can do it later too. Somebody asked. But then
well, I don't know what's gonna happen to me. You might want to tell me if I disappear, because I'm gonna have to switch screens to do this.
We'll post it later. We'll post it later, you guys, in our links below all of our YouTube channels. Okay. So Tracey at Whirls and Swirls, follow her, subscribe to her channel. Angela at Thread Waggle, so subscribe to her channel. And then Fabric Bash, subscribe to our very new baby channel. We're trying hard. We had to start somewhere. So
subscribe to her channel so she can get 1,000 followers. That's going to help her a whole lot.
We're trying hard.
Yeah, she's trying to get to 1,000. That's her first goal.
So Susie has a great question right here. The follow-up on feather question: would you shorten your stitch length?
Most of the time, no. But if I'm doing micro feathers, yes. It's going to be based on the size of my motif and not the fact that I'm doing feathers, right? So if I'm doing normal size feathers, let's say 2 to 3 inch plumes on my feathers, I'm not going to shorten it. But if my little plumes are only like a quarter or a half an inch tall, I'm shortening my stitch length. Anytime I do micro work, I increase the number of stitches per inch, right? So shorten the stitch length.
So question for you ladies. I was just watching a video yesterday or the day before on somebody who quilts, and they have their stitch length at 16 normally. That's
really small. How'd you like to pick that out?
Well, it's not the picking out.
Thank you.
I know, but when I looked at it, it actually looked threadier than the 10 or 12.
That's a lot of stitches. That's a lot of stitches per inch.
Isn't it? But again, no right or wrong. It's just a personal opinion. If you want that look, go for that look. If you don't want the look, try some other. So a great, try different thread colors, try different stitch lengths, experiment with what you have, right?
your stitch regulator off and work in manual mode.
Yeah, do it. Join
Do
the
it,
dark
do
side.
it.
It's fun. So show
Onto
them
the
your
dark
sample,
side.
Tracy.
What?
Show them your sample that's sitting next to you. That's
Oh.
going in with what Cathy just said.
Yeah. So I have this in the store. It's one of the samples that I use for the free motion classes that I teach at the shop. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it on camera, but I grabbed it. This is a great way to see what thread's going to look like.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to make you big, Tracy. So hold on.
See what you're going to like.
There we go.
So this is, it's long. So I'll start here. And what I did was I created this sample. It's all grid work. Quick side note, if you're interested in grid work, if you go to my YouTube channel and you look under playlists, you'll see a playlist that says grid work. And there's all kinds of grid designs where I show you how to pounce out a grid using my pounce and stencils. And then you use the registration lines to create all these really cool designs. But so what I did here was, and hopefully you can see it with the lighting. So I've done the same design there in 3 or 4 different kinds of thread. And then I moved over and I did another design. Hopefully, can anybody tell me if you can actually see this? There.
I can.
There you go. There you go. That
Okay.
looks good, Tracy.
Yeah.
There you go. So as the colors change, as the thread changes, not just the weight, but the color, I'm going the wrong way. I'm trying to watch myself and everything's backwards.
Right.
So there's a design. It looks completely different in the variegated than it does in the purple. And looks different again still because it's in the blue and it's all against black.
So if you had it angled back a little bit more against you, that's when we can see it better, Tracy. There you go.
Like that.
There.
See the colors?
There you go.
Yep.
So again, I got 4. There's the black, right? This one down here. And I don't know what number video this is. You'll just have to go to the grid work section. So in black, it just completely blends in. The blue stands up. When we get over here to the variegated, I'm so confused with what side I'm supposed to go this way.
Yes.
This way. It's like I'm totally dyslexic and backwards here. There we go. And then when we get into the variegated thread, it jumps right off. It's down in this corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you don't have to do all these different designs. You could just do one grid design, do an easy one, and just do a patch and then change your thread. You may have to change your needle depending on the weight of the thread, but just change up your weights, your colors, and just make yourself a nice big sample thing. It really gives you a good idea of how different everything's going to look depending on the color and the weight. I can't say stitch length because I stitch in manual mode when I do free motion. So, but what I will say to you though is if you are using a stitch regulator, especially with variegated thread, if you go down to about 9 stitches per inch on your stitch regulator, your variegated thread's going to look really, really pretty because your stitches are going to start to get a little bit longer and you'll see the color transition much better than if the stitches are really small.
True.
Okay, so we have a concern from Jasmine. I think we need to let everybody know. So I'm just starting out and was more concerned about having colors available, but now I need to get different weights too. So
Not
what would you guys say to that?
So my thing would be if you know what style of quilting you're going to be doing. Like, let's say you're going to be doing pantograph quilting to start out with, or edge-to-edge quilting, I would go with 40 weight threads. If you think that you're going to be doing a lot of custom quilting starting out, then you would want to start getting some of the thinner threads. But to start out with, realistically, even light custom, you can do with a 40 weight thread. Like Tracy and I have both custom quilted with glide thread. I know it for a fact. I'm sure Cathy has too.
I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, so, sure. So, I mean, I would say no, go for one thread and get the colors you need. And then as you see, you need different threads, pick up just the color you need in the different thread weight. And did you see that Sudie said she was she finds it hard to stitch in manual mode because she doesn't know where she's going, and she has to think about it. So Sue, this is my suggestion for you. If you have not already done it, there's a website on YouTube called Whirls, the letter N, Swirls, and you need to follow that website. And there's 400 free videos on there, and she does them all non-stitch regulated, and she's incredible. Her name's Tracey. She's lovely. I strongly suggest.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
And see you.
It doesn't. She's here now, but I would say that in anytime I'm talking to longarmers, she is someone that you need to follow because she will get you so that you can do non-stitch regulated. You know, you've bought a machine that does both. You need to learn when to use both and how, because there are times it's just easier to do things on manual mode once you understand how to do it.
Right. And it takes practice.
It does.
This does not happen day 2 of owning your machine.
Mm-mm.
And it's also
and be patient.
Patient. Give
Be
yourself
patient
some
with
wiggle room. And also there's something magical that happens with the quilt laying this way on the long arm. This way in the long arm. See, I struggle with the direction too, Tracey. This way on the long arm.
Yeah, it's weird when you're looking at the screen and yeah.
Okay, my son-in-law said I'm directionally challenged on many things. But anyway, there's something magical that happens when you lay your quilt, when it's on the long arm this way, to when you take it off and it happens. I think fairy dust hits it and it's like it's magic, and then you see this beautiful quilting. So don't just judge it when it's here. Take it off and look at it and put it up on the wall and really see what happens. It's magical.
And don't
Sue,
judge it.
if you go to my YouTube channel and you look for, sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you go to my YouTube channel, I can probably post the link on my channel in the below thing. I do have a manual, a turning off the stitch regulator video, and I talk about making the speed of the machine work with your natural rhythm and all that kind of stuff. So that might help you too. But just be patient with yourself and give yourself time. Don't get frustrated. And leave the stitch regulator on while you're learning specific designs or until you're comfortable traveling, because you are correct. You don't have time to stop and think unless you actually turn the machine off. But go check out the turning off the manual or turning off the stitch regulator video.
Awesome. And then also, what about ruler work and quilting? What size thread would you suggest? Again, I think the thread is not the issue. It's then for sure I have my stitch regulator on, right? I have my stitch regulator on when I'm doing ruler work, because that's a slow process for me.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
I need to be able to pause to move my ruler and stuff like that.
And the thread size is going to depend, Joanne, on what you're doing. If you're stitching in the ditch, you're going to be using 60, 80, 100 weight. If you're doing, I should have brought another sample. It doesn't matter. If you're doing ruler work in a border that you really want to see, I've got a sample at the shop that uses this for all the ruler work. And then there's a matchy thread to do the motif in the middle. So any kind of thread, depends if you want to see it or not.
So basically, I'm sure you guys are the same way. No quilting police are allowed in my store.
No.
We fired them.
Yeah. If you want to use bright orange on a all white quilt, go for it. If you want to do whatever, there's no rules. There's no right. It's your quilt. It's your thing. Do you. I'm going to do me. You do you, and enjoy the process, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
My only rule in my store is you don't hurt my machines. That's my only rule. So. All right. Anything else?
It's like, and Tracey, you're like, we can fix them.
Well, I know I can too, and we have. It's just please be kind to them.
Well, yes, don't hurt them on purpose, but I mean, they're also yeah.
I've had
machine.
Several attempts of attempted murder in my store.
Yeah.
In my shop.
But
it's okay. I can fix my babies. They're good.
That's the night. Yeah. So here's a great question. Do you use the same thread in the bobbin?
Probably not. Because
Never?
I'll use, almost never is what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Tracy. Almost
Never.
never. I do a lot of deco bob in the bottom, which is really thin thread, and 40 weight glide on the top. So I'm using Wonderfill in the bobbin and Haberdash in the top, or Filtech in the top. Not even the same brands. So I did not get the memo at any time that my threads have to match on the top and the bottom. I do kind of like them living in the same tone family if I can. So like if I'm using a medium tone brown on the top, I'll use a medium tone blue on the bottom. They can be very high contrast difference as long as they're in the same tone family. So yeah.
Right. And again, your comfort level. If you stress out at one little pokey coming through of the wrong color, well, then don't do it. Just do the other color. It's all good. It's all.
I'm not going to tell you you're wrong if you want to do it. I don't stress over it. Yeah.
I go by value. So if I'm using a lighter, you know what I mean?
So here's going to be all three of our thing, because Tam just said, can we do sit down long arms in the future? Here's the thing. So all three of us have used sit down long arms. We've all at some point or another owned APQS George machines.
I have a Juki and a Janome.
She has a Juki and a Janome. So what we're going to tell you is this, as far as like thread, tension, a little bit using rulers, a little bit. It's not, we used to teach the class for stand up and sit down at the same time, right? Because balancing your tension was the same. Movement is very similar, right? As far as how it's going to affect your tension and how it's going to affect your quilting. So don't think just because you have a sit down machine, you can't use what we're telling you. When we're talking, if we're saying, oh, you get your best stitch quality in one direction, your direction may be different depending on how you're facing your machine when you're quilting, but you still have the same situation where when you go, towards the left in relationship to your hook, it's going to be harder to keep your tension balanced than if you go to the right? Not that you can't do it. It's just a little more, you have to understand what you're doing a little bit more going against the natural movement of your hook. Okay. So we can definitely talk about stuff like that. Like I said, we've all owned sit down long arms. We don't differentiate them because in our minds, they work very similar.
And I would say, and I would also say, we're going to talk about the stitch regulator thing. So I have an M17 up there, Janome M17, that has a phenomenal stitch regulator and has a ruler foot with a stitch regulator on it. And I have a Juki up there that has a stitch regulator sit down machine. And I'm going to probably say this is a great starting place. Like Tracey says, it's a great place when you're learning how to move your fabric and how to do your design all at the same time. But eventually, you're going to become the stitch regulator. I teach that when I teach free motion quilting on your domestic machine. We call it the Indy 500. Let's talk about getting that nice rhythm that Tracey talks about by taking off your stitch regulator, by doing some maneuvering through your little machine to find that happy place between your speed and of your needle and the speed of you moving your fabric. So machine quilting is machine quilting. We all have the same tension issues. We all, we're using little domestic machine, all the way featherweight up to a big old long arm and all that other good stuff. So I think it's all relative and it's all the same. Not relative. That's the wrong word.
It relates to each other for sure.
Right. So Susie asked a good question. Do you find using different threads in the top and the bottom cause tension issues?
No, but here's the thing. I can use a bigger thread in my top and a smaller thread in my bobbin, and I'm using the hole that the needle makes differently, right? So I'm filling up the hole of my thread with my top thread, and there's less room for my bobbin thread. So I find that I have less pokies or less thread coming up to the top when I'm using thicker thread on the top and smaller thread on the bobbin. I actually have less tension issues. But I don't know. It's how I learned to balance my thread too, though.
I have different bobbins for different weights. That's what I like to do. You know, I like to have, I have a 60 weight Magna Glide and I have a 60 weight wound and we have a 40 weight. Like I like to not worry about my tension as much by changing the bobbin that's already set to that tension. So.
No, different bobbin cases.
Yeah, different.
What you're
bobbin.
saying? Different bobbin cases for different things.
Yeah, we have 3 bobbin cases at each long arm, and it's like one for deco bobs, one for Magna Glides, and one for any leftover super bobs we still have in the store.
Okay, so we got the shredding question again. So talk about just looking for burrs in your machine, and also if you have the right 40 weight thread to the 3.5 or 4.0 needle, so that might help.
And then checking to see if watching it to see if it's directional. Because if it's directional, you could have a burr on the needle plate, you could have a burr down in the hook or on the hook retaining finger. Right. And it's trying to figure out where the burr is so you can find it.
And then one more, the stitch length. So again, I find some of these questions are phenomenal questions and awesome. So I'm glad that you're asking them. But again, just like we showed our favorite thread, there were all different colors. Again, the stitch length and then stitches per inch that you like and what you think is a good number is what looks beautiful to your eye. It's in the eye of the beholder pretty much. I think I tend to hang out in the store around 10 to 11 stitches per inch around my store, but I don't know. What do you guys do for your rental programs? I know on some of my machines, I went down to a 9 and it looked better. So the machine was actually a little bit better and liked 9 on one of my older APQS machines.
I like 9 to 10.
I'm a 9
Most
to
of them
10.
are set. Most of them are at 10. But she might be seeing, try it at 11. The Omni is a 40 weight and the Sofine is a 50 weight. So your Omni is a little bit heavier. So you may also, if you're used to always using Omni and now you're trying because it says I tried Sofine. So that I'm thinking you don't use Sofine. So you're also looking at a thread that's thinner. So it may not look as beefy to you. Do you know what I mean? So maybe take those stitches to 10 and they'll be just that a hair bigger each one, and you'll see more of this more of the thread in the stitches, if that makes sense. I think it's just a weight difference and you're just used to seeing that 40 weight thread. It's heavier, it's thicker, it takes up more space, it's a little bulkier compared to the Sofine. And then just a visual thing.
And let's just add another variant. Let's add batting in. Batting adds another variant. And I would even say quality of your fabric that you use adds another variant. I can be doing a customer quilt and they did mostly really great high quality cotton. And then all of a sudden there'll be a couple pieces that aren't, and the stitch looks totally different. And it's the same machine, it's the same pantograph, it's the same, but it looks different.
So what's a 3.5 or a 4 needle in like the 80/12?
Oh, good question. Oh,
it's a 16. A 4 is a 16, isn't it? Is that right?
4 is an 18.
3.5 18. Thank you. 3.5 is the 16. Yeah.
4.5 is a 19, and a 3.5 is the 16.
Thank you, Tracy. I was like, one of them is
okay.
16.
No worries.
Yeah. The one I use all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
That one.
I'm going to go walk out the door. It's going to be fine.
Well, but I find some people, like, I always think of them as, like, I have customers who refer to them as 18 and 16, but when I think of them and talk about them, I use 3.4 and 4.
Yeah, we're using the millimeter size. Yeah.
It depends.
And it gets confusing because you have the thread world that said, hey, we're going to number our thread this way. And then the needle people went, neener, we're going to do it the opposite. So it gets confusing when we start talking numbers and thread, and the higher the number on thread, it's smaller, but the lower the number on the needles is smaller. And
well, hand needles versus machine needles are backwards too. I mean, as an industry, we just can't seem to get along and come up with one, cohesive way to do things.
Right.
So yeah.
It's like the card machines at the checkouts. Why does every single store have a machine that works differently?
Well, because
True.
I think
Why
each
can't there
bank.
just be one stupid machine at every store?
I wish.
I'm just happy we got tap now. We finally followed Canada and got tap.
You guys didn't have tap?
Not until really we went hands free during COVID. That's when we got tap.
Okay, so we
So
just
it's 4 years after you had it, at least.
so 3.5 needles are 16s,
Mhm.
4.0 needles are 18s, and
4.5 are
4.5 are
19s.
19s. Those are the most, I would say, the common on the long arm side of the world. So you would equate that also with.
Now, unless you're sit down. If you're a sit down long arm, you're probably going to smaller needles.
Like, especially in your domestic, 90-14 work fabulous.
Yeah. And I used to use 3.0s on my George, which would have been a 14. And I had 10-12s that I used on my George too, or 80-12s that I used on my George too. Okay.
So here's one more question, and we should probably wrap it up, I think, guys, because we could go on all night long because we love thread. Do you think the different brand of threads makes differences? So, I mean, Tracey said no. She said we're going to get out of that thread, that only a certain kind of thread works in our machines. That's a myth, right, Tracey?
Oh, but they do make a difference, though, for
Right.
sure, depending on, as long as you're using a good quality brand, then
Yeah. So what brands do you guys use on a regular basis?
probably about 10 minutes.
Oh, she meant needles. Okay, she meant needles.
Needles, you want to use the specific needles that your manufacturer tells you to use. So in the case of APQS, you are going to use Gross-Beckert needles because that is what your machine is manufactured and timed to use. So other manufacturers might use Singer long arm needles. There's a couple different manufacturers. I think Oregon Needles has long arm needles now too.
Okay.
But it's really important that you use the ones that are made for your long arm. If you have a George, we also use Schmetz long arm needles with George to get below what Gross-Beckert had in our size.
And if you're quilting on a domestic machine, then you're using domestic needles.
For sure. Yeah. You want to, it's important. All those numbers on those packages mean something, guys. And you want to make sure that the needle is the right length, the scarf is right, that the hole is in the right place on your needle. It's all important. And you will skip stitches if you are not using the right needle.
Susie, you are using a Juki. I don't have that knowledge at my brain right now on what those needles are. If you could message me at Fabric Bash on the Messenger on Facebook, I will go ahead and get Jacob, our tech, to help me with that question. We're just newer end on the Juki stuff. I have the information. I just can't keep it all straight, and I want to make sure I give you the right information. Can I also just say that I just saw some conversation about bobbins, that people try to buy the really darn cheap bobbins because I think they're going to save a lot of, right. We have Juki bobbin cases and I have APQS bobbin cases. They almost look the same, except for on the inside, they're a little bit different. I only will give my Juki people the Juki bobbins and my APQS the APQS bobbins. And the same with the bobbin cases. I mean, the bobbin cases look a little bit different. Juki goes to Juki, APQS goes to APQS on the bobbin cases. Same with the bobbins. I'm going to make sure that I give you Juki bobbins versus APQS bobbins. And also, even our Janome machines, we have a machine, I cannot believe it. It has version 1 has a bigger bobbin by like a millimeter than version 2. There's 2 even different size bobbins. They might look exactly the same, but they're really not. So make sure you get what your manufacturer says. I cannot say that again about sticking with what you just bought a really expensive machine. Don't try to save a nickel on a bobbin or a bobbin case.
I think that's a good point with any machine. You bought the machine you like, and you've bought the machine that works well for you. Cheaping out on supplies for that machine is going to change the way it sews, and you're not going to have your results aren't going to be as good. So, buy quality products that they're saying will work with a machine that you like, right? Or you're going to change that machine into a machine you don't like.
We don't want that. We want you to be happy.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, you are like fantastic. I could spend all evening with all of these great people. I really could. But I do have a home I need to get home to, and you guys are
Okay.
later than me.
Yes, we are. Next month we will be talking about batting. So we're gonna. We had questions about that tonight. We're gonna actually go into the topic of batting on the third Wednesday of March. I don't know the
Awesome.
date.
And
Somebody
we
else
might
knows
go
the date.
live a little bit more in between. So watch for subscribe to the channel so you'll get some updates and some dings when we do some fun off the cuff kind of live. So we're planning on we sat down and had a whole meeting about this. So join in, guys.
Yep, we lost Tracey. We lost Tracey.
There's some
Sorry.
baby
I saw
feet.
the
My,
cat sneak. Your
No,
cat
it was
snuck by.
Molly,
Oh, it was Molly. Oh,
my girl. Yeah, my dog is 17 and almost 18, and she just fell over. She's never mind. She's fine. I picked her up.
she's fine. Okay.
She's,
There was a kitten
we're-
sneaking behind you earlier too.
No, it's my Molly. We're losing her, but I don't want to end. I don't want to end our live on. I want to end our live in tears. So
Okay.
Okay.
Well, like I said,
We're
watch
happy.
everybody. Yeah. We're going to have a good time. We're going to interact a little bit more. These are two fabulous ladies that I get to work with. So I'm super excited about some of the future. How about you guys?
Yeah, sure.
it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And when we talk about just a quick thing, and I don't know when to shut up. So,
Okay.
thank goodness you two can rein me in all the time because I just talk too much.
No.
Eventually, it's hard to kind of do these things separated because the thread works with the needles, which works with the fabric, which works with the batting, which works with the everything else. And, the looks you're going for and what you're trying to accomplish, everything kind of works together. So next month, when we're talking about batting, we will end up talking again about thread, about how it sinks in the batting, and you can double bat or triple bat or what kinds of batting, all that kind of stuff. But it all at the end of the day blends together. So for the newer people out there, please don't get overwhelmed. Just breathe. I have a sticker right on my laptop that says just breathe.
Someone just reminded everyone to not forget to give thumbs up too. Thank you. That does a lot for our matrix on the different platforms. So
Thank you,
definitely.
Tam. From the bottom
Thank
of
you.
my
Thanks,
heart.
Tam.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
There
You don't know
go.
how much that you guys like I get so excited. I get so humbled and so appreciative of all of our customers who either like our Facebook, like our subscribe to our Instagram, to our YouTube, all of that stuff. It just makes my day. Like my poor husband gets tired of hearing about numbers.
Yeah, we got it. We were like watching the numbers the next day because we were getting analytics back, and we were shocked on the last one. I know I was shocked with how many people were on it and how many people were commenting. It was awesome.
Well,
it was completely awesome.
Our customers are awesome. The people are our fellow quilters, because that's all we are. Fellow quilters are amazing.
Yes, they are.
It's a good community.
Yes. Thank you guys for for sharing your evening with us on a Wednesday night. Watch for some more. You ladies have a phenomenal night.
You too, Cathy.
You too. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.